Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, it's about 2 o'clock on Tuesday Eastern time, anyway. And Tom and I were just having a great conversation, and we thought, man, let's just go live and bring others in. So if you're listening and interested, uh-oh, I think we're still here. Tom, are you there?
Yeah, you kind of got a little shaky there for a second, but um, we're still here.
Okay. Hopefully I'll stay. My internet seems to be wonky, but let's just jump into this and see if we can keep going. So Forrester
Sure.
came out with a new report on the generational shifts that are really changing the B2B buyer and seller dynamics. And there's some really interesting stuff that's come out of it. And Tom, you wanna kick it off and chat a little
Yeah,
bit
no,
about that?
there's a lot of really great data in there, and one of them that really jumped out right off the bat is part of their research. So this was basically the habits or what's going on with the millennial buyer and and the younger buyer, not just millennial, but Gen Z and Gen X and all of that. And a couple things that they
Oh
brought
wait,
out.
I'm Gen X. That mean
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
young still?
Yeah, yeah. I'm right on the border, so I don't know. Um, but what they were saying is that millennials now officially are the primary decision makers in B2B business. So the baton has been passed, if you will, and the millennials are the primary decision makers. Now the Gen Xers still control a lot of budget and so forth, but a lot of the decisions are being coming from millennials, which is not surprising. We've heard that for a while, but that was the first time that I've heard that sort of definitive statement that that is the actual case at this point. But then what they do kind of building on that, or what they talked about building on that, is that sales cycles, B2B sales cycles, have significantly slowed over the last 2 to 3 years. And for a couple of reasons is that, as millennials become more of the primary decision maker, and and the other part of it is a lot of decisions in some cases are not being made at all, right?
Mhm.
Which also slows down sales cycles. And the reason being is because millennials
Right.
want to buy and go through the buying process differently than we're selling. And as a result, we have a mismatch, right? We've been talking a lot about this, a mismatch between how we are going about the sales process and how now the decision makers want to buy. Of course, that's going to extend the sales process because we're not working
Right.
together. We're kind of working against each other. So, it's logical when you look at it that that's going to extend the sales process and create situations with no decisions or things dragging out and so forth. So I found that really interesting. The other interesting point I really found in there, and there's a bunch of them, we can talk about them over time, is in that same way is that they really expect that salesperson when they are ready and willing to engage with a salesperson to really be way more consultative, have a lot more data and information at their fingertips, be willing, be able to have answers
Mhm.
about what's not, not just about, hey, what pricing is or what a proposal is, but what's going on in the industry, have recommendations, have data, have all of that at their fingertips and, expecting that sort of level of um, interaction. So a lot of interesting expectations in there.
Yeah, those are, and Tom, I know this was from the Forrester report that you shared with me, but currently, today and tomorrow, the Gartner Innovation and Technology Conference, I think that's exactly what it's called, is happening. And I've been popping in and out of there all day. I listened to the keynote, which was at 11 o'clock, and there was a couple of big highlights he said just to kind of confirm and affirm what you said. And one of them was that no decision is um, the dominant decision that's happening right now, and it's driven by uncertainty, which drives fear. But then some of the other factors are the things that you said is that buyers are looking for collaboration. They're looking for sellers that are helping them solve a problem which is a more of a collaborative approach versus selling a product or selling a service. And for some people, that might be, not as big of a gap as others think. But I think from a buyer's perspective, that's a huge gap of whether they feel that they are in collaboration with somebody or they feel if they're being sold something. And, I know that we're not supposed to care so much about feelings, but the reality is that they're extremely important, especially if you want your buyer to move ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a feeling part. I also think it's just how they want to do business. You know, it's from
Mhm.
their mind. This is a much more effective um, and then as you said, they feel better about it, but it's a much more effective and professional way of doing this. And what I also find interesting is that the breadth of where this is occurring, at LeadSmart, we work with a lot of manufacturers and distributors and companies that, are non-tech companies, right? Companies that are
Mhm.
building products and have large sales forces and field sales forces and things like that. And this is this situation is impacting these industries in the same way that it's impacting tech. So this isn't just about tech. This is a broad
Right.
scale shift, if you will, in how buyers want to buy, whether I'm buying a physical product or a technology product or whatever the case may be. It's a very broad shift.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that, I was on the call yesterday with the CFO for a company that is in the janitorial supply space with large network of dealers and field sales reps. And we had the exact same conversation when we were asking about their buyers. And there was a big, well, we're not sure anymore. They used to be this way, but
Right.
we think a lot of them are younger, and so maybe they're ready, even though it's an industry that, as the CFO said, is we're outdated, we're old, we do things old school, we're not, our customers are not that tech savvy. But if the buyer is changing who that person is, right, and they're coming from more of a technology background, and
Yes.
part of the
Yes.
conversation we had is that our our role as a consumer is influencing how we expect our role to behave as a business to business buyer.
Yes.
And so as those, I know the way my kids have been raised, my millennial kids, um, this is where they do everything.
Well, and I think the idea of we don't have tech savvy buyers, I think that needs to be thrown out the window. Because I don't care what
Yeah.
industry you're in, and that's what we're seeing, right? Whether I'm selling, hard hats or, you know, respirators or whatever the case may be, my buyer is tech savvy. It's tech savvy because they grew up as being tech savvy, right? They know how to
Right.
use technology. They know how to use, like you said, the mobile phone, the mobile device, all of that. So even if I'm
Mhm.
not selling a technical product or a technology based product, my buyer is tech
Yeah.
savvy. So therefore, I
Well,
have to work with them on the grounds of how they want to operate.
yeah. Well, and even I think that we don't give enough weight to the fact of our own behavior as a consumer is teaching us and training us to be more tech savvy. My parents are pushing 80 years old, and they went on Amazon the other day and bought this grill thing and shipped it to me,
Okay.
right? So if they're able to do that on Amazon or other types of websites as a consumer,
Hmm.
that is influencing how everybody does their purchases. And
Sure.
notice I didn't differentiate B2C purchase versus B2B purchase. It's influencing their expectations for the way they purchase. So
Hmm.
even if you're a company, in the manufacturing space or any other that tends to say, "Oh, we're really behind. We're not tech savvy because our people aren't tech savvy." I think they're really missing it. that,
Well, I think every day, right? Every day, the miss is becoming more and more magnified, right? Every
yeah,
day, because every day there's more and more younger people that are going to be in charge of that. And yes,
right,
we all expect to have a similar experience in our business world than we do as a consumer, right?
right.
We've been trained on, well trained on what to expect on our experiences, so to speak, from the consumer perspective. So why wouldn't we want
Yeah.
that in business?
Yeah. And the question becomes is not like, oh, we've done it this way before. Our buyers are used to it, or this is what they expect, or all that. I think there's two questions that need to be asked in that. How much business are we not getting from our existing customers that we could be getting if we had a different experience for them?
Yes.
And then which new customers are we missing because of that? And all it takes is for, one turnover inside of a company where a buyer who, yeah, they may have been used to doing this for the last 30 years, but they retire and a new buyer comes in place and says, wait a minute, this is archaic. I'm not faxing you every time I want to place an order.
Right.
I'm going to go
Right.
find somebody else to order from.
Yes. Totally happening every day, right? Every
Yeah.
day there's somebody else retiring, somebody new coming in. And I was at a networking event last night and talking to somebody about this, and they're saying, what do you know about, millennials, right? You're not a millennial. Why do you think you understand the way millennials want to buy? And I said, well, millennials want to buy the same way that I want to buy and any generation want to buy. The difference is they're not tolerant of the old way, right? We're tolerant of the old way. We'll put up with it, but they're not. And they're not going to put
Well,
up.
can I
They'll
interrupt
find
there
another
for a
way to buy.
minute? Can I? Yeah. I mean, what you just said, Tom, I think is worth the pause.
Okay.
And we might have a delay. I'm sorry, but that I think you nailed it on the head right there for companies that they've got to be thinking about. You may have experienced for a while where people were tolerant of a less than stellar buying experience, and they have a history and they keep doing it, and they're like, well, it's my routine.
Yeah.
I could save time if I did it this way, but this is what I do, and all of that. But yeah, I think if you don't make that shift, when a new buyer comes in, it's going to be a really fast slap
Mhm.
and loss of revenue because they are not tolerant of that. I
Hmm.
mean, and when you grow up on this and you look at something archaic, their first thought is, why? Why would I do this? No,
Right. Right.
because they know there's 10 other options out there that they could go to.
And they're going to go research them and find out about them online. Right. And they're not going to
Right.
talk to a
And
salesperson. They're going to make a decision by doing
they're
their
going
own
to
homework. Right.
research it right here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nope. Completely agree. So that to me is the difference. It's not that as an older or a Gen Xer, right, we want to be sold any differently. We just put up with it and have put up with it.
Yeah.
And that's changing. And so if your buyer is not willing to tolerate how you're going about the sales and experience, then yeah, that's pretty severe.
Yeah. Yeah. I just went through an experience with a customer, and I'm going to make the assumption she's millennial. She was a client with a different company, a different customer of ours. She was the lead main contact, and now she's at a new company. And we went through and the process of her saying, "Hey, I'm over here now, and I'd like to get this information." Sent it. Okay, great. Could you send it to me in a formal proposal? Sent it. Great. It's approved. Will you send me the contract? And we want to pay for the year in full. Can you send me the invoice? And how quickly can we start? Not a single phone call. It was 3 or 4 emails, and I took, and I offered, I said, do you want to get on a call, or would you like me to call you? Would you like Zoom? Would you like this?
Uh,
She drove the experience, and I just catered to what she wanted to have happen,
yep.
because I know if I didn't, I could have risked losing it because it went out of her
Yep.
ideal
Yep.
buying situation.
Yep. And if you would have said, I can't send you a proposal, or I can't send you this without having a discovery call, or whatever that kind of be, you would have lost it, right? She
Yep.
would have gone elsewhere. So
Yeah, if I had a rigid
example.
process that I had to stick to, I would have lost the customer. And
Right.
most likely nobody internally in a company that does that would have even known that
No.
they lost it.
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's huge. Well,
And then they'd
Tom,
be
you
wondering,
want,
how come I got ghosted? You know, it's like, well, that's
Right.
what.
yeah. Do you want to summarize this up? And
Yeah, we'll talk definitely more about this in the days and weeks to come. But I think the era of the millennial buyer is clearly here, and it's obviously coming more and more entrenched every day. And I think the speed of which we all need to be able to adapt. I wrote a blog post or a LinkedIn article last week on this: adapt or die. If you remember the famous line from Moneyball, right? I think our ability or our need to adapt or die is becoming more and more obvious and apparent. And so, yeah, we'll share more on how and what's, things that can be done about it, and not just the issue, but what are some solutions.
yeah, that sounds great. Cool. Well, hey, everybody, as usual, if you ever want to join the conversation, you just put them in the comments while we're live, and we'll respond. If we're not live anymore, then Tom and I will both respond to your comments anytime. But any other topics you think are worthwhile? Tom and I just plan on doing this a few times a week. There's so much information right now. There's so much research taking place, and there's so much change. And what I see is so much fear and frustration, to a point where some companies are just frozen with that. We're just going to wait till it goes back to normal. And, we know this inherently, but I think there's still a wish, but we ain't going back to normal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just ain't doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it ain't going to be that.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't used the word ain't in a long time. That kind of felt good.
I feel like I'm, following your Atlanta, right?
Exactly. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
All right.